Oh, Jim? Jim?
I'm just going to take right off here. Good evening. Welcome to this Tuesday, March 18th, 2014 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll call roll. Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Crane.
Present.
Commissioner Fizer.
Present.
Commissioner Grodsky. Commissioner Hanner.
Present.
Commissioner Meiske.
Present.
Mayor Kirchhoff.
Present.
And Commissioner Faulkner is also present. We have a quorum and no personal appearances scheduled this evening. We have two items on the consent agenda. The first is acceptance of minutes of our March 14th, 2014 meeting as presented. And the second is case 14007, second final plat for High Point at Creekmore. And I think, as you prefer, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda or each individual item unless you have concerns and want to take something off for discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anderson.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
And second by Commissioner Crane. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. And that is 7 in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. And so we have remaining case 14007, second final plat, High Point at Creekmore. Still on the consent agenda unless you wish to remove it for discussion.
We just approved it, didn't
Oh, sorry. What I heard was acceptance of minutes. Did I not?
we? Minutes, and then case 4007 is also part of the consent.
I apologize. Okay, so consent agenda is approved. Okay, sorry. Only heard the first part of that. All right, so that will then take us into old business. And the case in old business this evening, case 14003, Unified Development Code, 19th Amendment, stream setbacks. Case does require a public hearing and was continued from our meeting roughly a month ago to this evening, and staff has requested that we continue this case to our April 15th, 2014 meeting. I don't see anyone from the public. Public hearing is still open if anyone wishes to speak on the case this evening, but seeing none, I think, Mr. Cataract, do you have anything you'd like to add at this time?
I would just request in the motion to continue both the public hearing and the case to the April 15th, 2014 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So we still want to keep the public hearing open until the 15th.
Right. Anyone brave enough to make that motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anderson.
make a motion that we continue case 14003, UDC 19th Amendment, stream setback, and can continue the case and public hearing until the April 15th, 2014 meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Meiske. And is there any discussion on the motion to continue? All those in favor of continuing the public hearing and case 14003 to April 15th meeting, raise a hand, please. And we are, again, 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Okay, so that case will come back to us yet again. That takes us into new business, and looks like we actually have just one case in new business this evening. So this is case 14012, a request for an inflatable sign permit for Golden Corral's grand opening. And since I don't see anyone here representing the applicant, I suppose, Mr. Carteret, would you present case 14012, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. And I do not have an explanation for you on the absence of the applicant. I did advise the applicant and the representative of the sign company who will, if approved, will be installing the inflatable sign. They were aware of the meeting. I suspect perhaps the applicant, the owner of the Golden Corral, is probably on site with some last minute activities. They're getting close to trying to get a final inspection tomorrow, so I know they're quite busy on the site. But I'll go through the staff report and then leave it to the commission regarding what action you would want to take.
Sure.
The request was submitted by the property owner. The request was specifically to obtain a permit to install an inflatable sign on the roof of the new Golden Corral located at 1921 West Foxwood Drive. Section 47240 of our Unified Development Code is what establishes the procedure for a business to request a permit for an inflatable sign. And this was a code section that we just recently modified with the 17th Amendment to the Unified Development Code, and that's where we went through and recommended to the council, and council approved the change of the process where we've expedited the review, whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission now has the final authority to make a decision on any request for an inflatable sign permit. In the staff report, the applicant did submit a photograph of a balloon that's very similar to what they would intend to install on the roof. It does have a grand opening message on the balloon itself. As I indicated, the balloon would be placed upon the roof of the building, would be secured to the roof of the building. They are requesting that the sign, or the inflatable sign, be installed for a 2-week time period. I noted in the report there have been 5 inflatable sign permits that we've issued since we've allowed the use of inflatable signs with the adoption of the UDC. To date, we haven't had any code enforcement issues. They've all placed them in locations that were acceptable. They removed them in the time frame they were supposed to remove them. So overall, the permit process has worked very well. There are factors in the code for the Planning Commission to consider when you do review an inflatable sign permit. Staff does recommend that the commission approve the sign permit application with 2 conditions. The first is that the permit shall only be valid for 14 days from the date the inflatable sign is first utilized. I believe if it is approved, the sign would be installed early Thursday morning, which is their day of grand opening. And then the second condition would be the inflatable sign shall be secured to the roof of the building or by weights placed upon the roof of the building, which is their standard practice, where this company handles all of the inflatable signs and all the sign packages for Golden Corral across the country. So they're very familiar with the use of the balloon and the design of the building. This is a prototype building. So I know that the balloon has been successfully utilized on other facilities. So there's a level of comfort in that this is something that is typically done by the sign company the applicant has hired. And I did include an additional letter from the actual sign company that's doing the work. There are going to be a few other items as part of the grand opening. They're likely to be a banner placed separate from the balloon, which is allowed by code. They do like to utilize pennants. I noted in the staff report that the pennants we have only allowed on a very temporary basis as part of only a grand opening. It's not something that we want to allow extensive use of within the community, and they don't get used, but there have been a couple of instances at a grand opening where they have utilized some pennants in the parking lot area. So that is the extent of the request this evening, and I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Catarat. I guess one question I would have, specifically looking at staff recommendation with 2 conditions, and I would understand this permit to actually be covering not only the inflatable sign, but also the banner and pennants. I'm not sure if that's correct interpretation. I notice your statement, which I agree with, over in item 7, page 4, the pennants will need to be removed after 14 days of the date of the grand opening. I kind of favor the wording in condition 1, the permit shall only be valid for 14 days from date the inflatable sign is first utilized. And of course, that gives the applicant a little flexibility if it happens to pour down rain on Thursday. Never know, it's Missouri. But I think I would also feel better if we had, just for instance, if we added a 3rd condition noting that the pennants also had to be removed no more than 14 days after the date they're first utilized, or something tying them to that 14 day
I think it says it, so.
as a condition. Commissioner Hanner?
The way I'm reading 7, it says the pennants will need to be removed after 14 days of the date
Right.
of the grand opening.
Here's the catch. 7 is a part of staff comments. It's not actually a part of, it's not actually a condition of the approval. And that's exactly what I was looking for. I like the comment in 7. I think we should include it as a condition. Mr. Catarat, comments?
Yes, actually, there's a reason why it wasn't listed as a condition.
I suspected.
Because I do agree with you. The actual request this evening is just for the inflatable sign permit.
Okay.
So the banner that I mentioned they want to place, that's a separate permit.
Okay,
That they'll have to get.
and doesn't require Planning and Zoning Commission concurrence?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So the pennants?
The pennants are not part of the inflatable sign permit. I
Right.
note in
Okay.
here that we generally do not allow the pennants.
Right.
We make exception for a very limited time for a grand opening, meaning that we won't commence enforcement
Yeah.
until
So,
a time
as-
period that we set, and 14 days is as long as we would want those up. So
Right.
that is why I said that.
So what I think you're telling me is that the only thing that Planning and Zoning Commission needs to worry about is the balloon.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. We
that-
will,
that
I
makes
assure you, we
perfect
will
sense then.
enforce the removal of the
Yeah,
pennants.
but as long as it's not under this case specifically this evening, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
And that's why
Commissioner-
it wasn't a condition.
Yeah,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanner.
Although it may not be part of this, I do have, in their letter, they mention streamers on the side of the building and the light poles. Has that been considered?
Sometimes, I've seen it, for example, I know when Freedom Stop had their re-grand opening, they used pennants that were, I don't know that it was strung between the lights, but across, across maybe from the monument sign to a point of the ground. I think they may want to do pennants between the light poles in this case. They have, the light poles are centered on the site in the parking lot area, so I believe that was their intent.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure,
Although it's not part of our
Right.
decision-making, I was just.
I'm sure we have an opinion on it, but
Right.
but
Out of
I'm,
my scope, sorry. I'll go back
right,
and
no,
read.
I'm having that same clarification now, but I think staff certainly exercises good judgment, and I'm perfectly willing to leave it up to your discretion. And so other comments from the commissioners about the inflatable?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anderson?
just a comment here. So as I read the staff comments, so the applicant is having a temporary sign, I'm assuming it's part of a grand opening. So that's a banner. We have streamers and an inflatable sign. So it seems like it's a lot of signage to say, hey, the business is open. Then I go down to section 9, which is part of the UDC, section 435, is that we prohibit. So I'm thinking just for this grand opening, it's a lot of signage to say, you know, we're opening. And I compare that to the other grand openings that we have, which is typically not this grandiose in terms of the signage.
Right,
and
only,
signs here.
only 5 that we remember, and
Right.
actually of those 5, I sort of believe that one of those 5 didn't ever get around to installing the inflatable.
Right. So in totality,
apartments.
yeah, so in totality, I'm not a big fan of inflatable signs.
Sure.
And so,
Sure.
you know, just my opinion that, you know, I would, you know,
I don't remember specifically all of the others. I think McDonald's grand reopening
McDonald's, yes,
did an
had one.
inflatable.
Yeah.
Seems to me like Firestone may have done an inflatable.
and
Yes,
TC maybe as
and
well.
the Freedom Stop
Right.
did, and then Manor Homes, the
Yeah.
apartments have done it twice.
Okay,
And this is on top of the structure itself, or just, I
I
don't
believe
recall.
McDonald's had it on top of the roof, and the Freedom Stop had it on top of the roof.
Okay.
right, so either place. But again, I guess I would agree with Mr. Cataret's comment that, you know, we do have some experience with inflatable signs, no past history of enforcement problems. It seems reasonable to me as long as they adhere to the rules and the condition.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's more unsightly than
I
anything.
agree.
So,
That's, fortunately, we're not the ones to make the business decision. But yeah, you know, that's pretty much the gateway to Raymore right there, so, or at least the western gateway to Raymore. So I think it is important to try to preserve the appearance, and by the same token, you know, it's not a bad thing to say, hi, we're here, come on in. Other comments? Anybody care to make a motion on case 14012? And if you do, I would agree with Mr. Cataret's comment. I think the 2 conditions that are stated are probably more than adequate.
Okay, I'll try this.
Right.
Mr. Chair, with regard to case number 14012, the Golden Corral inflatable sign, motion to approve with the conditions identified by staff, that the permit shall only be valid for 14 days from the date the sign is first utilized, and it shall be secured to the roof of the building by weights are placed on, upon the roof of the building.
So, okay, I think staff actually, and maybe it's my hearing tonight, can be either secured to the roof, tied down to the roof, or secured to weights on the
Right.
roof. Okay, sorry, I'm not sure I heard you correctly first time.
Shall be secured to the roof of the building or by weights placed upon the roof of the building.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And second by Commissioner Crane. So motion by Commissioner Hanner to approve case 14012, Golden Corral inflatable sign permit with the 2 conditions noted under staff recommendation. Is there any further discussion on the inflatable sign? All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 in favor, all opposed. And Commissioner Anderson opposed, so that's 6, 4, 1 against, and no abstentions. And Commissioner Anderson, if you would, like to state for the record your objection, we'll record that.
Sure, for the record, referring to section 435.020 in terms of not allowing inflatable signs and the amount of signage that's actually occurring at this grand opening. So I just think it's kind of too much.
We'll see, won't we? Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Okay, let's see. So that concludes new business, and Mr. Cataret, are you in a position to give us a city council report?
Yes, sir. There were a few items of interest at the March 10th, 2014 council meeting. Council did consider on first reading the reclassification of zoning for the North Cass Plaza that the Planning Commission considered back at your March 4th meeting. And council did approve the rezoning by unanimous vote on first reading. So second reading will be held at their next meeting on March 24th. And at that time, the preliminary plat will be presented to council for the first time. Since preliminary plat only has one reading, we held on to that until the March 24th meeting. Another item on the agenda, they actually had two requests to extend the expiration date of preliminary plats. The first request they had was for the Arbor Hill subdivision. Arbor Hill was approved back in 2006, I believe, located next to Southwood Estates on the south side of Hubach Hill Road between School Road and J Highway. But no final plat has ever been done for that subdivision. It never moved forward, but the owners were requesting an extension to the preliminary plat. They've been trying to sell the property for a number of years. The issue that came up, as I saw it, the applicant was unable to be at the meeting. And so they weren't able to represent themselves. They weren't able to explain the reason for the request. And again, there's been no activity, in the subdivision. So on a split vote, the extension was denied. And so that preliminary plat has officially expired. So any activity on that subdivision, if they came in and submitted a new preliminary plat, would have to comply with all of our current codes. And the interesting thing about that subdivision, that was one of the subdivisions during that time frame that came forward that triggered a new code requirement that we have regarding adjacency. When we have a new subdivision coming into adjacent large lot developments, there's requirements for the new lots to be compatible with the adjacent lots. And compatible can be done in several different ways, but this particular subdivision was one of the items, one of the subdivisions that kind of triggered us to explore that whole idea. So I don't know what the applicant will do moving forward. I know they're still trying to sell the property. The second application for an extension was for the Alexander Creek subdivision, which is out on Ward Road. There was a representative there. Salee Homes is in the process of purchasing all of the undeveloped lots and the rest of the undeveloped land. Closing is scheduled for this Friday. So he was here requesting of council the extension and indicating what his plans are. Alexander Creek still has, I believe, 76 lots in the developed phases to build upon. So it will be a number of years before he would get to doing anything with the undeveloped land. But he did request that they extend the preliminary plat, and council did grant that extension for a one-year time period. And so those were the items that I noted of interest on the council agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cataret. If you'd like, you can roll right into the staff report and planning pipeline.
Yes, sir. We have a number of meetings coming up for the commission. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 1st. And we have a couple of items on that. Two of the items deal with the same property, which is commonly known as the Legends of Raymore. This is the subdivision that contains the Culver's Restaurant and all the undeveloped commercial land around Culvers. The subdivision also includes the townhomes to the rear. And Lot 3 is a undeveloped parcel. It's right at the corner of Mott and 58 Highway, so directly across Mott from Culvers. And this particular lot has gone through a couple of evolutions. They continue to add a little bit of land area to this lot, and they indicate that they have somebody that's interested in purchasing the property, but they require a 2-acre lot. And so what they're proposing to do is add additional land area, about 21,000 square foot, to the Lot 3 from undeveloped area that's part of Lot 4. And so what they propose to do is they'll need to reclassify the zoning of that piece of property and do a replat so they can combine it all into one lot. So the southern boundary of this commercial lot, in essence, would be Cinnabar, which is the boundary line for the commercial land area to the west. So from a staff standpoint, it does make some logical sense. We have provided notification to all the adjoining property owners and the individuals in the townhome units that are close to the area, and so they'll be aware of the April 1st meeting. And again, a second item for that would be the replat of that lot to create the 1 2-acre lot. And then the third item on that agenda for April 1st would be our first review, our annual review of the growth management plan. Well, we adopted that document a year ago. We established the procedure where annually in April we will conduct an annual review of the growth management plan. So it'll be a report similar to what you see for the Unified Development Code. We'll talk about what progress has been made in implementing any one or many of the 19 goals that you've identified in the plan. So we'll provide a written report for that and be able to talk about what activity has occurred in the past year regarding the GMP. Then April 15th is our scheduled public hearing that you continue this evening for the 19th Amendment to the Unified Development Code on stream buffer protection. And I gave you a little bit of an update at your last meeting. We've made more progress since the last meeting. We have met now with both the Bob Jackson, the developer of the estates, and as well as Give Good and Dave Otis, developers of the Good Ranch, and made significant progress with both. We have a revised draft that we have finalized and will be distributing tomorrow to the development community, those that were at the meeting, interested parties. The South Grand River Watershed Alliance is one of the interested parties. Posted online and provide that draft. That'll be the draft that we will be submitting to the commission for your April 15th meeting. We feel is in final form, but that is still subject to perhaps some comments from others. The progress we've made is there have been some amendments that address some of the concerns that were raised at the public hearing, and so we believe, at least in verbal discussions with the Good Ranch folks, that they are comfortable with the revisions we've made. So they wanted to see it in writing. They wanted to be able to have their experts look at it. We have not had any discussions or contact with anybody else in the development community. We have had discussions, as I indicated, with Mr. David Flick, who's provided a lot of assistance on this. And I believe he's also providing assistance to the development community. So he's actually advising the Good Ranch folks as well. So hopefully when we come to the April 15th meeting, we'll have some level of agreement and be able to present that to the commission and get your input on what we're proposing to do with the document. So we're very appreciative of all the help that we've gotten to this point, and so we're hopeful that the amendments we're proposing will be a little bit more acceptable to the development community, but still meet the intent that we're trying to meet in taking care of our streams that are within our community. So we feel, we being Mr. Crass, myself, and the Assistant Public Works Director, Ed, that we've really got a document now that we're comfortable with. So we're hopeful. We had a lot of comments at the last meeting, so took a lot of them to heart, and hopefully we have a document that we all can work with now.
I think we'd obviously prefer a win-win that one, that case in particular, seemed like it had some aspects of it that were pretty polarized. I was hearing totally contradictory things from some of the different parties. One concern I have about the April 15th meeting is that I don't believe that we've issued any additional public notices from the initial notice for the February meeting, and consequently, I'm kind of trying to put myself in the position, we had a large turnout at that meeting. We have no turnout this evening, and the public hearing, of course, is still open. I guess I'm gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable a month from now if we have no or very low turnout for the April 15th meeting to discuss this, and I don't really want to break precedent and try to do a public notice just for this one particular case, but I wonder, Mr. Carteret, it seems like, you know, the public has probably moved on. The folks that saw the notice showed up. You know, I'm not sure how they're gonna know necessarily to come back on the 15th of April for what may be the Planning and Zoning Commission's final discussion on that case.
We could certainly do another public notice, and what that does, first of all, you know, we've already met the legal requirements, so
Right.
it's just a courtesy notice, but that's,
Right.
we can certainly do that, and what it does, when we post that, is it does go out through our alert system, through our Notify Me system that the city has, so it goes to a lot of different individuals
Right.
that may have an interest, but it'll clearly indicate that April 15th is the date for the hearing.
Yeah,
We also, again, tomorrow we'll be sending out the notification to
Right.
everybody that received the
development
notification
community,
initially.
I think, probably is somewhat well noticed already.
Yes, and I think that's why you don't see them here tonight, because they
Right.
were
They knew.
notified that we were just asking for the continuance.
Right.
But you're correct, we want to make sure that everybody who was here and spoke gets a
Yeah.
copy of the new document and is aware that April 15th is the date, so.
Even though we probably remember a lot of the discussion, we certainly have benefits of the minutes, and those will be in our next staff report, but I still think, you know, that with the public hearing still open, so I'm not gonna do this to a formal vote, but just consensus, commissioners, if you'd raise a hand, if you feel that it would be appropriate to do another public notice for the April 15th hearing on this case.
But it wouldn't be official.
Pardon, well, it is official because the city's publishing
Oh,
it.
okay.
So it's simply, if you feel that it would be appropriate to do an additional public notice for that April 15th meeting, a hand please.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
Do you need a motion for the
No.
body to take action?
I don't think I need a motion to do a public
Okay.
notice. My lawyer's not here, but
Okay, well,
But-
and my apologies, every time we do something in the council, it's got to, I mean, there has to be a,
and this, as
and
Mr.
I recognize this isn't the
Right.
council, this is a bunch of friendly people, so.
Well, nevertheless, I'm not touching that one, but nevertheless, as Mr. Carteret put it, and if he had been vehemently opposed to an additional public notice, I probably would have taken note of that. Mr. Carteret offered, you know, it's not legally required, but it's.
It's the right thing to do.
It's right, and I apologize, I've forgotten your phrase, courtesy. Thank you. I think you said it's a courtesy to the public. So
Yeah.
I'm not getting any kind of a warm feel from the commission, but I guess maybe I'll phrase it in the negative. Could I see a show of hands of commissioners who object to a courtesy public notice for the April 15th stream buffer hearing? And seeing none, Mr. Carteret, if you would take care of that, the courtesy, thank you. Okay, sorry to interrupt, what else?
That's all, I believe that's all I have this evening.
Okay. We'll tell Mr. Zur that he was missed, but not too badly. Let's see. So I'll open the floor for public comment. Mr. Eanes, it's good to have you here this evening. Not a whole lot of public, seeing none. We'll move on to commission member comment. Commissioner Hanner, I think I'll put you on the spot first this evening.
Okay. First, I apologize for not being here at the last meeting, and I'll apologize in advance for not being here on the first.
Okay,
Assuming that we have a meeting that day, I'll be
right, we do.
I'm off to DC on Sunday, back for 3 days, and then off to Jordan. So, but thank you very much for your patience. I'm
Nope.
still here.
We do appreciate your participation, and we understand that the job is also important. Let's see, Commissioner Pfizer.
No comment.
Yeah, Commissioner Meiske,
No comment.
Secretary Crane.
No comment.
They're dropping like flies. Commissioner Anderson,
No comment.
Mayor Kirkhoff, I know you won't let me down.
Well, seeing that we have a lot of time left, and I do have some notes here, I could probably burn a little, probably be 15, maybe 20 seconds. I noticed that the permits for detached single-family residential homes is down this year over last year. But on the other hand, the number of homes currently under construction is dramatically up this year over last year. And I hope that Raymore continues the trend that they established last year of having nearly 50% of the residential building permits issued in all of Cass County issued for Raymore. So, and the second comment that I was going to make is kudos to the chair for suggesting the courtesy public notice. I think that was strongly recommended. So that's all I have.
Thank you. So, Mr. Carteret, I absolutely in no way want to hold you responsible for proofreading the Raymore Journal. However, a couple of articles in the most recent issue, Thursday, March 13th, and I would like to question or discuss just a couple of things that the article jogged. So on the front page, Raymore prepares for growth around North Cass Parkway, and in that, talking about the rezoning and preliminary platting for North Cass Plaza, as it's temporarily named. And if I can find it here without too much difficulty, there's a statement. Okay, so second column, you're quoted as saying C3 is our most intensive commercial zoning that we have in the city, said Community Development Director Jim Carteret. I completely agree with that. Then it goes on to say he also referenced the 1994 growth management plan's goals for this land, which assign it for C3 and business park usage. So I was merely questioning the 1994. That may be the GMP in effect when Good Ranch was initially preliminary platted. It's certainly not the current GMP.
Yeah,
I just wondered if you knew how they quoted you as referencing the 1994 GMP.
Yeah, I clearly remember the first part of the quote. The only reference I would have made to the 1994 land use plan would have been the Good Ranch land use plan that was adopted in 1994.
Right,
but
right.
Not, the city didn't adopt or, land use plan in 1994.
Right. Well, we had a GMP.
We had a GMP.
Back then, I know,
Yes.
but we have several complete rewrites since then.
Since then, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, but I think the comment was more reference to the Good Ranch master plan of 1994.
Right. Well, if anybody else read the newspaper article and happens to be watching, that correction is noted. And also Mayor Kirkhoff. Oh, no. Oh, I think this is very valuable. I take the time to read it, more often in the paper than online, low tech. So page 7, the mayor's report from Mayor Kirkhoff. And actually, I'm not going to challenge you on proofreading here, but again, your comments jogged something in my mind. Discussion here, and this is third column, talking about city council meeting and various business. The last item, annexation agreements, is something that I think can be beneficial to the city. I asked city staff to look at the unincorporated areas around the city to determine which areas would be most likely to annex into the city, considering sewer, water, and so on. With this information, we can approach neighboring cities to enter into non-binding agreements on future annexation of the areas into the cities. And you went on to say, while it may be decades before some areas are annexed, having agreements in place now will help to establish intent and help future developers when they consider developing land outside the city. I thought very well put, and my thought, Mr. Carteret, was that Planning and Zoning Commission is certainly interested in that, as we've done rewrites to the GMP, and particularly I hadn't made the connection with an upcoming GMP review, but speaking for the commission, I think we're very interested in that, and I saw that as being primarily something that City Council was going to focus on, but I also wanted to ask that Planning and Zoning Commission be included in that, and I think that's important enough to us from a planning point of view that we'd really like to be active participants rather than just kept informed after the fact. Any other discussion from the commissioners on that item?
Well, and if I may, I agree completely. It is going to be a long road here to get to even begin to get agreements. It'll begin, the start of it will be at a real high level without any, it'll be more mayor to mayor at a lunch type of thing. As it starts to solidify, trust me, I'm going to back out quickly because it becomes a legal thing. Oh, okay. And once that occurs, then it'll be run by P&Z, and then finally approved by the council.
Sure.
I don't want any, just good old boy agreements between a couple of mayors. I want something documented. This is something that Belton and Peculiar have done, and it seems to be fairly effective there. And it's all about intent. Right. It doesn't bind anybody. Things may change 10 years from now. Sure. Water still flows downhill, but things may change. But I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Right. Well, I look at North Cass Parkway interchange, as best I understand, good cooperative effort between Belton and Raymore and state. And I like those kind of things. I think that's important going forward. But, I do realize if you look at hard boundaries out there beyond Raymore, we have some hard stops. We can only grow so large. And then again, I look at cities, not to pick on Grandview, but I think Grandview is pretty well landlocked. Kansas City surrounded them. I know Raytown, very clearly landlocked. And so I think that looking ahead and letters of intent are definitely a very smart thing to do, and it's certainly never too early to start working on those agreements. So I thought that was a very good point. I wanted to make sure that Planning and Zoning Commission was actually offered an opportunity to be involved in that, in addition to just being kept posted on what else is going on. So appreciate that, Mr. Carteret. Thank you for noting that, and Mayor Kirkhoff, thank you for noting that as well. And that's all I've got. I always thank staff, and small but mighty tonight. So as always, we do appreciate your efforts. It takes a lot of work putting the packets together and trying to keep us straight. Unless anyone has any other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Anderson, you're working awfully hard this evening.
Absolutely. Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
And Commissioner Crane, thank you for the second. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. And it is at least unanimous. So that would be
You're gonna have to jump in and.
7
Motion to
in
adjourn.
favor, none opposed, no
I
abstentions.
never sure.
I counted you twice.
Yeah,
Control, are we allowed to speak?
yeah, and anybody is allowed to, just like on council, but there tends to be a pattern.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just helps to keep things moving forward.
Jim,
I'll get there.
Jim. God, my tinnitus is just driving me crazy.
Oh, no kidding.